Welcome to the Women's Motorsports Network podcast, the show that puts the spotlight on the incredible women who fuel the world of motorsports. From drivers to crew members, engineers to fans, and everyone in between, we're here to celebrate the trailblazers, dreamers, and doers shaping the sport we love. Each episode, we share inspiring stories of females of all ages from every corner of the motorsports universe, past, present, and future. It's a journey through the seasons of life filled with heartfelt moments, laughter, and a whole lot of horsepower. So whether you're a lifelong fan, a racer yourself, or simply curious about the extraordinary women behind the wheel, settle in, relax, and enjoy a fun and uplifting ride with us. This is the Women's Motorsports Network podcast, connecting and celebrating women in motorsports, one story at a time. Let's hit the track. Hello, everyone. This is Melinda Russell with the Women's Motorsports Network podcast. And I am very pleased today to have as my guest Haidyn Hansen. If you watched anything at all about the Tulsa Shootout, you would have seen and heard a lot about her. And so we are really lucky that we are getting to talk to her today. But Haidyn, I want to first welcome you to the show. And would you please share a little bit about yourself so we can get to learn a little bit about you first?
My name's Hansen. I got into racing when I was about 6 years old. I raced go-karts on a national level with the Maxxis Midwest National Series. I also raced horses when I was younger. I care for those on the day-to-day basis. Just really, I try my best to do everything I can to get me to the racetrack, and I like
So
to.
do you
Oh,
have
yeah.
do you have family? Where do you live? That kind of thing. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Um, yes, I have a younger sister and my
Okay.
mom and dad. She is 6 years old and races horses as well.
Okay.
I live in North Platte, Nebraska, about central Nebraska, very chilly here.
Yes.
And that's really it.
And how old are you, Haidyn?
I'm 14.
Okay, so you're a freshman,
Yes, I'm a
sophomore,
freshman in high school.
freshman in high school. And do you go to school or are you homeschooled?
I go to school. I also play basketball at my high school.
Okay.
And I actually missed a basketball game to be at the Tulsa Shootout, but it was definitely worth it.
Oh, absolutely. So, how do your friends feel about you racing? Like, do they know much about it? Do they understand it? A lot of kids that don't race don't really get it. So, what about your friends?
They're definitely supportive of it, but they don't understand it as much. Like when I try to tell them things about it, they'll be like, "Oh, okay," and not really. It won't really click.
Yeah,
But
yeah. They almost have to go and experience it, don't
yes,
they? Yeah,
yes,
yeah, for sure. And with you traveling nationally, it's harder because there's not probably as many races close as if you were racing at a local track, and so that makes it harder for them. But did any of them watch you on at the Tulsa Shootout?
yes. I shared my flow login with my closest friends, and they got to watch me celebrate that win, and they were all so happy for me.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they were, and we'll talk more about that in a little bit. But so what? So you play basketball. What are your favorite things to do outside of racing, other than basketball?
Um, I really like to spend time with my friends and family. I like to get out. I don't like to stay home very much, and I like to,
Like
yeah,
if you
just
were
really
going to go on
spend time.
vacation, where would you go?
Oh, I would go like to the Bahamas
Yeah,
or the
somewhere
Virgin
warm.
Islands. Yeah, somewhere tropical and warm.
I agree with you. I think we should go there next week when it's going to be so cold everywhere.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So Haidyn, go back to the first what you remember about or what you know your story is. How you got started in motorsports. Was it your parents or what happened? How did you get interested?
So ever since I was really young, I knew that my dad had raced dirt bikes when he was growing up, so I was like, oh, that's kind of something that I wanted to do. But he told me that dirt bikes are too dangerous, that he wasn't going to let me do them. So our cousin, or yes, our cousin, got us into go-karts. And so I competed locally um, for about a year, maybe until I was 7.
Okay.
And then I started racing the Maxis National Series when I turned about 8. And I became the first girl to win a championship. Um, I became the first girl to win a lot of things in that series that they had never seen before.
Yeah.
And after I turned about 11, 12-ish, I started getting into micros because of a friend that we met in go-karts. The Maxis Midwest series was kind of dying, and
Okay.
there was not really any go-kart races anymore to compete at a national level like we did every weekend.
Yeah.
And so we got into the micros, and just this last year or two, I started getting heavy into them. And we got in with Johnny Boland last year, and he helped us win that Tulsa shootout, and it was the best thing ever.
Yeah. So for people who don't know, because I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I had to laugh because I listened to one with a bunch of guys, and it comes out of Maine, and they're big into short track racing, and they know all about NASCAR and everything. But they were talking about the Tulsa Shootout, and how they didn't know anything about it. Now these are
Mhm.
older than me, some of them guys who've been around a long time,
Mhm.
and I was thinking, how can you not know really anything much about the Tulsa Shootout? Because it's like saying, what's the chili bowl? I mean, it's
Yeah.
kind of the same thing, right? And so I just kind of had to laugh. But so why don't you, and how many years have you gone to the Tulsa Shootout?
This year was my 3rd year at the Tulsa shootout.
Okay. So try your best to explain what is the Tulsa Shootout.
The Tulsa shootout is a week-long race where the best of the best come to compete. Um, you race all week trying to get to the A mains that are on Saturday or the end of the week.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you race for points essentially to get your lineups in.
Yeah.
It's really just luck. You draw at the beginning of the week what you will start, and you have to adapt to the track because it's constantly changing. And some people only racing 1 or 2 classes will only race once or twice a week, where others are racing 4 or 5. They're racing every day.
Right.
So,
And that's
um,
because they have 4 or 5 different cars, and they're racing in
yes,
different classes. So
yes,
that people understand, they don't race the same cart 4 or 5 times. They're
no,
racing, they have a lot of carts to race.
yes, they
Yeah.
do.
Yeah. And like you said, it's the best of the best. So, um, there's NASCAR drivers there. There's, you know, kids of NASCAR drivers,
Hmm.
because we hear about them, when they race. Obviously, they get a lot of publicity in that. And even maybe people you haven't heard of are really, really good racers. And they come from all over the country, don't they?
Yes, they do.
Yeah,
I've met definitely a lot of people that I wouldn't have met just going to school and playing basketball.
right.
Like meeting people all over the world. There's a teammate I had this year that was not even from the United States.
Really.
Yeah.
Where was he from? Was it a
I
he?
bel yes, I believe he was from the Netherlands.
Okay. See, what are the chances of a 14-year-old girl from North Platte, Nebraska, meeting that kid in just your regular life? It's just
Yeah.
not something that's going to happen. But motorsports just opens up a whole new big world to you, doesn't it?
Yeah, I've definitely met more people, and I'm glad that I've met all these people than I would have ever imagined.
Yeah, for sure. And there's a lot of girls that race there,
Mhm.
isn't there? Yeah.
Mhm.
So I interviewed back during Tulsa Shootout. I had a dad reach out to me of somebody that I kind of connected to a little bit in the past, and he had 4 girls racing there.
Mhm.
Uh, Emma Smith, Riley. Oh gosh, I'm not going to remember their last name. Riley's last name. Mem Ashcraft, which is his daughter, and Peyton, and I can't even pronounce her last name.
Oh, yes,
And
yes. I know who you're
you
talking about.
know who I'm
Yeah.
talking about? And so we did a recording with them from there just to get their perspective about what it's about, what was happening. And we had so many people listen to that story because, 4 girls on a team, first of all, is not normal. And then, how many different drivers were there? Do you know? Was it like 400 different drivers?
Uh, yeah, I would
Yeah.
say that's roughly it, yeah.
Yeah. And when you think about that, okay, let's just say that, some of those couple of those girls I think drove 2 different carts. So you take, let's just say 300 kids, adults, whatever, 300 drivers, and some of them are driving 2 or 3 or 4 carts. We're talking thousands probably
Mhm.
of different carts in races.
Yes.
So one of the things those guys didn't understand is the A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all that.
Mhm. Yeah.
Why
Yeah.
don't you explain a little bit about that? So tell me what happened for you that week. What day did you race? Where did you start? Tell us what happened for you to get to the finish.
So I believe practice day, we went out there and we were slow. Like it was horrible. I was like, oh my gosh, there's no way I'm gonna make it to the A main at the end of this week with the way we're going right now. And so luckily in my heats, I believe I raced my first day racing in the restrictor was maybe Wednesday or Thursday.
Uh-huh.
Um, I ended up winning, or maybe got second. I can't remember.
That's okay.
I started in the back and I got to the front and it set me up for the qualifier, which I started maybe third or second. And then I won that, which got me enough points to start third in the A main on
Hmm.
Saturday.
Okay.
And so then
So the
when
A
the
main is the last race. It's the big
yes,
race.
yes,
Okay.
it's the one like the qualifiers get you into that race,
Right.
essentially. Yeah.
But if you could have finished not as well, and you might have been in the E main,
Yes.
and then you won that and you went to the D. Isn't that right?
Yes.
And then if you won the D, or you were the first however many that they move
I
up
think they took the top two.
to, that's what I was thinking too. So you could have been who knows where.
Mhm.
And I don't know how. I was thinking they went back to P, but I can't swear to it. What the very
Mm.
last letter
I
was.
think I think in the restrictors they might have went down to D's.
D's. Okay, but some of them were
Yeah, they were
had
a ways
farther.
down
Yeah.
there.
So
Yeah.
you were in the restrictor. Some of them, I think had way more races to get into the A. And so, you know, just trying to grasp how many people that is that are driving is hard to do if you have never
Mhm.
been there. I have never been there, but I have that on my list for next year to go because so many girls were there, and I just was like, I've got to go out there and watch these girls race. That sounds like so much fun. And then of course I got hooked and I was watching the Chili Bowl yesterday. But isn't it just like a community, even though maybe you haven't met a lot of those people? Don't you feel like the racers kind of form a community?
Yes,
Do you know
I
what I'm
definitely
saying?
agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you feel at home while
Mhm.
you're there. Like maybe you don't like a couple racers, but there's hundreds of them there. So,
Yeah, absolutely. And so the people that you meet probably has to be one of the best things about it. But what did you, other than winning? I know winning had to be at the top, but other than winning, what was the thing that you loved most about being at the Tulsa Shootout? Because it has to be, exhausting and and
Mhm.
it's dirty and it's just
Yeah.
what did you love the most?
I love the most, with our teams being all pitted together, we got to spend time with our teammates and learn things about them that maybe we hadn't known before. Definitely getting tighter bonds with the people around us was definitely my
Okay.
favorite part.
Now, are you going to be with this team the rest of the season, or was this just for the shootout?
I will be with them for the rest of the season, yes.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about your team then. Tell me again the name of the team, where is it based out of, and who else is on your team?
The team is Bolin Speed and Performance with Johnny Bolin. It's based out of Gainesville, Texas. There's a couple other drivers that rent from him. Cooper Miller's mainly one that drives for him a lot. Um, he, yeah, he's a young guy. He definitely helped us out a lot.
And he
But
runs a different class though than what you run, probably.
he usually runs non-wing.
Okay,
Um, but yeah, he decided not to run anything at the shootout just to help
okay,
us out.
okay. That was nice of him for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah. And then there's you, and then who is there other on the team, or just the two of you?
it's just the two of us, really.
Okay, okay. And so, when you go to these like national races, are there very many girls that do that? Because I know a lot of girls run carts and
Mhm.
run, these kinds of cars. But when you're racing nationally, are there probably more girls than you would have at a local race, or how does that go?
Yes, there's definitely more girls at a national race than there would be at a local race.
Yeah.
As when we get down south, like Oklahoma, Texas area, there's a lot more girls that race than there is Nebraska, Kansas, Missouri area, I'd say.
Okay. And why do you think that is? Just it's more popular there, or why is that?
I would say it's definitely more popular there.
Yeah.
They have a lot larger community at the racetracks. They have a lot more popular racetracks like Port City and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
And it's warmer longer there, so they
Yeah,
probably have a longer season than
yeah,
like you would in Nebraska or we would here in Michigan. We start usually the end of April if we're lucky. Sometimes it's the first part of May before it actually is nice enough to have a race. And we end like the last weekend of September, first weekend of October.
yeah.
So, when you're in Texas, you can probably run year round, really, if
Mhm.
most of the time. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so how has it been to be a girl and to be so successful? So, do the guys treat you just like another one of the guys? Or have you had guys that are like, I'm not getting beat by a girl and they try to run you over? What's
Oh,
been your
yes, definitely.
Yeah, I figured so. So what's kind of been your experience and is it getting better? I mean, you've proven that you belong there. So
Yeah.
is it getting better that they try to beat you but fair and square, or are they still trying to run you over?
Well, when I first started, I mean, there wasn't a lot of respect there. They were I maybe
Yeah.
they thought I wasn't going to be successful,
Yeah.
and it was rough, honestly, at the beginning, it really was. But then as I kept going, I stopped caring how
Yeah.
they would treat me, and I would just run my own race, and it worked out for me in the end.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty much what you have to do. I'll never forget Haley Deegan, when was running, I think it was trucks maybe, and they kept running into her, and even the announcers were like, they just keep running her over. She's got to stand up to him. And I'll never forget the one time, they showed her getting out of her car in the pits, and she went right up to the guy. I don't remember who it was, and just gave him hell, and it's like,
Mhm.
yeah, that's what you have to do because until you stand up for yourself, they're gonna try that. But I think now I'm sure you have more respect and the guys understand that you're a definite competitor and they're going to have to race their best in order to beat you. and
Yes.
not by running you up the wall or flipping
Yeah.
you over or whatever, that for sure. So you're 14 years old. What's your long-term goal for your racing? Do you have one?
I've been kind of thinking about it. I would definitely like to continue racing, maybe get into the sprint cars. I just really need to see where my schooling takes me, like
Yeah.
how far I get with my education.
Okay. Yeah.
And yeah,
I'd love to see you in the sprint cars because there's really no women in the big series in sprint
yeah,
racing. And I often wonder why that is because there's a lot of talented women out there. And I think maybe it was just something that the sprint car racing maybe has taken a little longer to catch up as far as um, women who are really good at it. Like you're 14, you've been racing
yeah,
this a while. So, if you look down, 15 years ago, there might not have been any women really doing a lot of racing in this.
yeah.
And so you're getting the experience to move up. Yeah, I went to Eldora one year to the King's Royal,
Hmm.
and I was really expecting to see a lot of women. I really didn't follow sprint racing at that time very much, and I just assumed there'd be a fair amount of women like there are in other series, and there was not one woman
No,
in the pits either I mean there was a very few women in the pits, and I want to say less than 20 in the whole pit area, and they were
wow.
wives, girlfriends, whatever.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
were only along for the ride. They had no really interest in driving or any of that, and I was really surprised. And so I love when I see girls like you and Riley and Emily and Peyton and all those other girls. Briley Kilmer, do you know
Yeah.
Briley?
Yeah, I've heard of
Okay,
her.
I've known Briley for quite a while. I love seeing you guys really, take it by storm and show that you really are serious about this and this is
Mhm.
something you love to do and you want to keep doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. It's definitely there's definitely more girls getting into the sport now that people aren't afraid that something's gonna happen to them. They can't drive them as well.
Mhm.
But yeah, I'd say that girls in motorsports is definitely growing.
Oh, absolutely. And I love seeing that for sure. So, what do you think it takes? So you're managing, and I know you're only 14, so I get that. You're not having to take care of laundry and kids and all that, but you still have a lot of things to have. You have to get your homework, get good grades,
Yeah.
work on, I'm sure you help work on the car, you have
Mhm.
to stay mentally focused on your racing because that's a big part of it. You're playing basketball, so you've got practice and you've got to schedule all these things. How do you, as a 14-year-old girl with so many things on her plate, how do you manage all of that? How do you, you know, I know your parents help you, but how do
Yeah.
you kind of take on that responsibility?
I try to get as much as my schoolwork done at school as possible. Like, I don't think I take any homework home rarely. Especially with basketball right after school from 3:45 to 6:30.
Wow.
It's definitely yeah, it's a long time.
Yeah.
Yep, I just get all my schoolwork done at school. I go to basketball, come home, eat dinner, work on the cars, then I go to bed and do it the next day.
Right.
It's
Do it
yeah.
over again. So, when I hear you say that, or I hear that from other young women who are still in high school or whatever. Um, it shows us a definite dedication and passion for the sport, or you wouldn't handle basketball practice for almost 3 hours, come home and eat. A lot of kids would be like, I'm tired, I can't go work on the car. But you love it enough that you're like, oh no, I have to have this car ready to go because we're going to wherever you're going on the weekend or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. It
So,
definitely takes some drive to continue what we're doing, like the program that we're on. And
yeah.
yeah.
So does the guy that you drive for, does he how I mean, I know he owns the cars and that, but or you drive for him, but what does he do as far as like helping with all that? Does he transport the cars? Are the cars where you live? How does that work when you drive for a team?
Um, well, at the beginning of the season, we sent my cars, both of them, down to Texas to his shop to work on them because I wasn't racing till like June, July. I had a foot injury, so
Okay.
I couldn't continue to race that. And he worked on the cars for us, got them all ready, and we went and got them, and now they're here. They
Okay.
stay here, we transport them. He calls my dad, tells him like what to do, what to get ready for the weekend.
Okay.
And then when we get to the racetrack, Johnny sets up or tells us what to set up, tells us what to do, helps us, and he just kind of helps us out throughout the weekend.
Okay. And then does he find the sponsors and that, or do you have to help find sponsors? How does that work?
Luckily enough, I have found sponsors throughout my career, and he's definitely got us a couple.
Okay.
But yeah, I've just had some that I continued to use throughout the years.
Okay. All right. That's great because they've watched you race and they see that you're somebody they want to represent their brand, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
for sure. So, you know, basketball teaches you a certain amount of team, teamwork, competitive, and all that. Racing is a little more of a single sport where you're the
hmm
one in the car. What do you think you've learned from maybe both of those sports that has helped you or will help you in life? I call them life lessons. What kind of
um,
life lessons have you learned so far?
Definitely in basketball, I've learned, how to work as a team, listen to what others are saying, like what their needs are to help us continue to win the game. And in racing as an individual sport, I've learned to adapt easier because sometimes maybe my pit guy hasn't got the right setup or
Okay.
like I can't get frustrated with him because he's not on the track with me. And maybe sometimes I don't communicate what the track's doing, what the car's doing as well as I should be.
Yeah.
But yeah,
That's
I've
hard
just
to learn
learned.
though, isn't it? Isn't
Yeah,
that
it is
hard to,
definitely.
I mean, you know what it feels like, but being able to explain that to somebody is a
Yeah,
little bit
it's
more
very hard.
difficult. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the tracks do change. I mean, we're not talking a pavement track or
Mm-mm.
asphalt. We're talking dirt, and it's going to
Mhm.
change with every lap pretty much that the cars
Yeah.
go around. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So if you have a bad day, like not just a kind of bad day, but if you have like a bad day, how do you handle that?
Like on the racetrack or just at.
Either one or both, like on the track if you're having, or mostly when you come off. How do you deal with a bad day and then bounce back for the next race?
I come off and I go and sit in the trailer and I think about things that have went wrong, things I could fix. I just kind of sit there and calm down
Yeah,
and
because
I
it's not
don't.
always your fault.
No, it's not. It's definitely when you're out there, it could definitely be a mix of things. Could be a mix of the track, mix of other drivers.
Yeah,
Maybe sometimes it's just you,
right.
and it's just a
Or
mix of things.
you're on a track you haven't really been on a lot, and so you're
Mhm.
still learning it, and then it's changing, and then there's drivers that maybe haven't raced against before. All those
Yeah.
things make it difficult. It's not like going to the same track every week, competing against the same drivers every week.
Yeah, it's you're meeting new people on the track, you're learning their personalities on the track, how they
Hmm.
operate, how they drive,
Yeah,
like how they are as a person really.
right. So, do you have any race day superstitions as far as I always wear this shirt, or I always eat this before I race or after I race, or anything like that?
Yes, I always wear a black shirt and I always wear black socks. That's my
Okay.
two things that I always do.
Okay. All right. And what about eating? Do you eat before you go out to race, or does eating, it doesn't matter? It doesn't bother you either way?
I usually don't eat. Sometimes I get nervous throughout the day and I just lose my appetite.
Hmm.
I mean, I have more things to be worried about than what
Yeah,
food I'm gonna eat later. So,
yeah,
yeah, I
yeah.
usually don't eat during the day.
That's what I hear quite often for sure. So how do you think women have or are making an impact on motorsports? How do you think they're changing it or adding to it?
I'm definitely thinking that they make the other drivers more respectful towards the other.
Hmm.
Um, I think that they definitely have changed the sport for the better,
Yeah.
getting more drivers out there, introducing more things, just getting a different driving style out there overall.
Yeah, that's true for sure. So, do you think motorsports is a good sport to be involved in? I mean, you can kind of compare that to being on a basketball team, but would you encourage other little girls to get started in motorsports?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's taught me things that I've never would have learned in school that teachers or other students at school would have taught me. Just learning lessons from older people, learning to respect all of those around me. I definitely think motorsports is a good thing to be into.
Yeah. I typically, when I interview girls, and let's say 18 and under, if I interview a girl that's under 18, more times than not, they are more grown up um, than kids who have not been in motorsports. And I'm not 100% sure why, other than I think as a girl in motorsports, you've had challenges, which we're going to talk
Hmm.
about in a minute. You don't just step into the car and start winning. Some people do, but that's not something that's forever. And then there's just things that you have to learn. Adversity, the car breaks, the guy runs into you. Those are all things that are different than any other sport. So, can you talk to me a little bit about maybe what your challenges have been? Like, what's one of the hardest things you've had to learn how to do or overcome? And then maybe tell me a couple of the things that you feel like you've learned from being in motorsports.
Um, Definitely a challenge I had to overcome was getting close to like the edge of the track in the micro, like running the cushion. That was definitely a little scary for me at first, but as soon as I overcame that, it was fine. I was fine. Everybody thought it was great. Um, yeah, that was definitely a big challenge for me. Maybe not a challenge for other people, but I was definitely a little scared of it at
Okay.
first.
Okay.
And
What's
I've
something you've
learned
learned?
I've learned how to really respect people, maybe not showing it physically, but like mentally when I'm making those decisions on the racetrack.
Yeah.
How would I not harm them in any way, like, or affect their outcome in the
Yeah.
race?
That's good. And yet you're still successful. So,
Hmm.
some people think in any kind of racing that you have to be aggressive or you kind of have to do a little pushing and shoving. And sometimes, probably, maybe you do. But overall, you can drive clean and respectful and still
Hmm.
be successful.
Yes, you definitely can.
Yeah. And it's a mindset of the driver. The driver has to have that mindset that I'm going to race a clean race. I'm going to be respected by other drivers, but I'm also going to not let them push me around, which
Hmm.
we've talked about already. Yeah. So, do you have a mentor or someone that you've looked up to in racing?
I've definitely looked up to like my dad because he went through the same experiences that I did, maybe in dirt bikes, but yeah, I would definitely say my dad.
Yeah. And have you ever wanted to get on a dirt bike, or now that you're doing what you're doing, you're like, yeah, that was a good decision?
Well, when I was younger, I definitely wanted to get on a dirt bike. I thought it looked a lot more fun. I mean, you're flying through the air,
Yeah.
and but now I'm like, yeah, I'm glad I
Yeah.
didn't do that.
Yeah, you're flying through the air. You just hope you're going to land on two wheels.
Yeah.
That's for sure. Yeah. So, what's the best advice someone has given you?
Um, I got this advice from Jerry Morris. He is from North Carolina, South Carolina area, and he told me that 1,000 laps in the dark will definitely show in the bright lights. And so thousands of laps that I've had um, at local races that maybe nobody would have noticed
Uh-huh.
definitely helped pay off at the Tulsa Shootout.
I love that. I've never heard that before. And when we're done, after we're recording, I'm going to have you repeat that to me so I can write it down. I love that.
Mhm.
That is so true. It's kind of reminds me of the saying, a lot of times you'll hear somebody say, well, I'm practicing while other people are sleeping.
Yeah.
Like what I'm doing when you can't see me is what's making me successful. And that's
Yes.
kind of what you're saying there. I love that. That's great. What's your other than your win at the Tulsa Shootout? We know that's at the top of the best memory list.
Yeah.
Do you have another one besides that? Did
Yes, I
you?
do,
Okay.
actually. When I was racing go-karts at a national level, there's this race called the Midwest Max Daddy, and it took me 7 years to win that trophy, and after 7 years, I finally won it, and that was definitely a great memory. And then not the next year, but the next after that, I won it again,
Okay.
and it was, like, something I wouldn't have imagined. Like, we
That's
do
awesome.
qualifying races in the go-karts, and I didn't even make the qualifier before the main race, and just coming out there and winning it was phenomenal,
Yeah.
really. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool because you didn't expect it, and neither did
Mm-mm.
anybody else.
No,
And
nobody
those are
expected
the
it.
best. Those are just the best. If you're expected to win, there's a lot of pressure and everything.
Mhm.
But it sounds to me like you're like, okay, I'm not that good today. I'm just going to go out and do my best, and then you won.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Haidyn, that's so cool. So let's talk about social media because I know, that's a big deal, although
Yeah.
TikTok's gone, so we're not doing TikTok today. But how do you use social media? What platforms are you on and how can we follow you?
Um, I mainly post my racing on my main page. I don't have a racing page. On Instagram, it might be Haidyn Hansen, might be my
Okay.
username. I'm also on X or Twitter, whatever it is.
Yeah, whatever it is. Why do they
Eh,
have to change the names?
I don't know. I get so confused with it.
Yeah. It's still Twitter to me, but X, yeah, I know what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah, and then I'm also on Facebook as Haidyn Hansen, and I
Okay.
share all my racing stuff on there as well.
Okay. All right. Has Facebook helped you at all and like get more known, get any sponsors or anything? Because you have
Um,
been successful.
yes, it hasn't helped me get any sponsors or anything, but it's definitely helped me get more known. People share 'em, and then it just goes down the grapevine.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. So, is there anything, Haydn, that I just obviously missed that we should have talked about you, your racing, and then maybe answer that question. Is there anything that you can think of that you want to share? And then when are you going to be starting your series up again? Are you like you're already started because you did indoor, or when does your racing really start?
No, I don't think we missed anything, but
Okay.
my series starts this year. I think I have a race in February, and then I'll kind of take a break because I have soccer as well.
Oh, so you play soccer too?
Yes,
Okay.
and then I think we'll kind of start back up in April, May times,
When
and
it
then
warms up. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And then where, like, when you do that national series, like, where all, give me some idea of where do you go for that? What states are you in? Do you ever come to Michigan?
No, actually, unfortunately,
Darn. Okay. Where do you
we
go?
go like Missouri, Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, just
Okay. More the
all
middle of the
those.
country.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. All right. But if we wanted to follow where those races are, tell me again the name of it. What is it called?
The Now 600 National Micro Series is definitely what we're following with the micros.
Okay. And then what's the other car that you race? And
The go-karts,
oh
and
yeah,
those
the
are
go-kart.
the Maxis Midwest National
Maxis
Series.
Midwest. Okay. All right. Sounds good. Well, if you guys want to follow a very talented young woman who's showing that she can get out there and race with the best of them, because Tulsa Shootout, definitely, it's the best of them. I'm so proud of you, Haidyn. I hadn't talked to you or met you before, but I was following. I looked up to see the names of the girls that were in the Tulsa Shootout, and I had them on a list, and then I, was trying to follow. So I could see how you were doing. And so I was so excited when you won. That was just so fun to see all of that. And everybody was excited for you too.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what makes it good, isn't it? That, you get to share it with your family and your friends and the new friends that you've made.
Yes, definitely. And
Yeah.
thank you for congratulating me on that win.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm so glad that you were able to be on here. So that's everything I have to ask you today. But if you'll just hang on after we stop the recording, I need to get a little information from you, and then we'll go on and finish with our Sunday.
All right, perfect.
All right. Thank you, Haidyn.
You're welcome.
That's it for this episode of the Women's Motorsports Network podcast. We hope you've been inspired by the stories I shared today and feel more connected to the amazing community of women in motorsports. Remember, whether you're behind the wheel, in the pits, or cheering from the stands, your story matters. And together, we're driving change and celebrating every milestone. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with someone who loves motorsports as much as you do. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram for updates, behind-the-scenes content, and more incredible stories. So until next time, stay inspired, stay connected, and keep racing through life. This is the Women's Motorsports Network podcast, where every woman's story is worth celebrating.